Hello, and we are live. Welcome to the Bloodstream. I hope everybody is doing well. Hope everybody is having a great Halloween season. We've got a fun Bloodstream lined up for tonight. We will be taking questions from you guys in the audience. If you have questions for the Iron Maiden, please post those or send them via super chat. That would be the best way. That way they are cataloged and they are easily accessible. I will try and keep an eye on the chat tonight and keep up with the questions as best as I can. But let me do some shout outs here before we get the ball rolling here. We've got Dave in the chat. We got Jeffrey. We got my buddy Cody. What's up, Cody? Saturn Video, Riz Ami, Captain Halloween. How you doing? Jill, hello. Sinjin, Shaka Swan, Alex Bacon, hello. TH Jamie, J Muse. Oh, it's Rudy. Pepsi Man. Nice. Justin Murad, Mr. Manson, Entertainment Wizard. JB, what's up? All right, well, without further ado, let's bring her in. In my opinion, the star of Halloween Kills. All right? I'm talking about the Iron Maiden herself, Belisa Lea. How you doing, ma'am?
I am doing wonderful. How are you, Justin? And hello to everybody out there who loved this crazy middle-aged woman who decided to take on Michael Myers with a household iron. So yeah.
You know, you can't if you're gonna take on Michael Myers, you can't go naked. You got to bring something.
No, you got to bring something.
So I mean, she had an iron. Maybe she was doing some ironing, and she was like, "Oh, he's in the streets. Let's get him."
Yeah, absolutely.
You could do some real damage with that thing. You start swinging it around, and just it really hurt some people with that. So
absolutely.
But thank you so much for taking the time out to.
You are welcome.
Yeah, to hang out with me and with all of us here watching this and telling us about what it's like to be the Iron Maiden. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, it was kind of like an accident that happened, and Wilmington is kind of the hotbed for movies and for TV series once again. And I was living in that community, and I always put my name in and threw my hat in, and this time I threw my iron in for being background, and they needed people at midnight, and I said, all right, I'm available. They called me in and lined us up, kept a few of us, what they called middle-aged neighbors, and they decided to use me inside of a house, put pajamas on me, had me looking outside, and for some reason they liked the seriousness in my face. They liked my voice. They liked my mannerisms, and they said, we really want to put your clothes back on you. You're going to take you outside, and you're going to be one of the ones that will be Tommy's mob, and you're going to go after him. And until I was handed a prop, and I probably was standing on set another 2 hours, they handed me this rubber version. Let me see the one. It's identical to this iron that I grew up using. And they handed me the iron, and again, it was rubber. And you were talking about swinging it and really hurting somebody. And that's what I started doing, standing there in front of what had been an old Tom's peanut truck. And they sent the first assistant director back over and told me, you can't swing the iron. So,
even though it's rubber, you can still take somebody's eye out with that thing, right?
Right. You might hurt one of the other backgrounds. So
go ahead. Let me ask you this. Did they was the iron the first choice? Did they come with you with like, here's a gun or here's a bat or here's a board? The iron was the first choice?
The iron was the only thing that the props master handed me. And, it really did. It turned out to be the best possible tool or weapon to use with Michael. And sadly, I never did strike him with it, but I was ready. And, you're given just a few seconds on screen. You don't know what they're going to pick up. And I positioned, myself behind Sheriff Brackett. And I figured, if I'm going to be seen, it's going to be by him. and then having the light of the Tom's Peanut truck behind me, really accentuated, my opportunity to have light around me. And then of course I positioned myself too by my tallest friend that was part of Tommy's mob. And he's always great to work on set with, because if I see him standing at 6 foot, I think he's 6'5" or 6'7", one of those heights, I know I can find me. But yeah, that was my only choice. And
Well,
thank goodness.
you made an incredible impression. I remember the first time I saw the film.
Mm-hmm.
I there's that shot of you're standing. It's majestic. You're
Oh,
posed. You've
thank
got the
you.
iron, and I went like, she brought an iron with her. And like when I reviewed the movie, I said
Mm-hmm.
they brought bats, they brought
Mm-hmm.
guns, they brought
Mm-hmm.
2x4s, and some crazy woman brought an iron.
Right, exactly, exactly. And it's funny because you really never know, and you've got to have improv skills. And then I thought about it and I said, this is a woman that's determined. This is a woman that life has never been too kind to her, which we all go through those points in our lives. So I mustered up all the strength, all the passion, all the ferocity, that I could to show through that character. And I look back at it, I look like hell. If I were Michael Myers, I might be a little afraid of this woman. But,
I listen. It intimidated me, that's for sure.
well,
But
good.
I do wanna ask you.
Sure.
Were you familiar with the Halloween series? Had you followed the Halloween series before this? Were you a horror fan at all?
There are certain horror films. I am so easily frightened that there are times I remember every horror film I went to in the theater, because
Uh-oh.
I usually ended up, I phased out there. I really had a hard time. And I had a brother who was 17 years older than me, and he thought scaring me was a lot of fun. So movies like that, he would like depict characters out of it. He would throw lines at me. He always said there was this thing called raw meat and bloody bones that lived up, in the attic. And so I was always afraid. And I had seen the very first Halloween movies. And then I probably missed about 30 years. And then all of a sudden it's back in town, and it's going to be filmed in Wilmington, and you kind of catch up with the storyline and just, go out there and do your best and try to show that fear, but try to show that anger too of wanting to get the best of Michael.
Mhm. And you'd mentioned that you know, you tried to get extra work in the past. Have you
Right.
done other extra work other than
Yes,
this?
yes, I have done quite a bit. I was in the DC market growing up in Northern Virginia, and I would do. First thing I ever did was Forrest Gump, and I was one of the protesters. And thankfully, they dressed me in men's clothes that were warm because it was 28 degrees in late October
Wow.
in DC. So I was around the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Monument, and the scene where the Vietnam vet runs up on stage and pulls the plugs, and you can't hear him in Forrest speaking, and then
Mhm.
he runs off, jumps into the water, and those were actually stand-ins that were doing those scenes, and they carefully then placed um, Jenny Jenny up on a box so she never got wet. So I'm in the crowd down there. I'm in the crowd up at the Lincoln Memorial, and then I'm in the scene where everyone, and I never can find myself, but I'm there, and I ran across the picture the other day. That was the picture of me in my costume, and my hair was probably down to my waist at the time and more blonde, and I was the perfect hippie for that era of film. And then I've done a lot of independent film work that was filmed in DC, filmed in Wilmington, and I actually had an audition today, a callback for stage. So
Oh.
I have trained to be an actress, and you can't really train to be background, but you want to learn the phraseology that's used. And if you are around a university that has a film program, volunteer if you want to get into films, volunteer at your local theater. And all of those things really help you hone your craft and then get involved with independent and reputable filmmakers.
Mhm.
You have to say that because I grew up modeling, doing dance shows and things in the late 70s, 80s, and got out of it, then went and started training to be a stage actress. So it all pays off at the end, especially when you get a great prop like an iron. So
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, indeed. Yes. That's very cool about, Forrest
yeah.
Gump. Yeah, wow.
Yes, yes.
That's very, very cool.
And
Um,
go ahead, sorry.
no, please go right ahead.
And there was nothing else that was really of great notice. I have killed people in films. I've bludgeoned people. For some reason, I can do a really good scowl and a scream, and that ferocity of stabbing someone. I saved a guy from killing himself in a film, and the most fun for me as an actress is to be someone that I can separate myself from.
Mm,
And in one film, it's called Killer Bees, the movie. And it was a film written and produced and directed and filmed by women. And it was about a mafia wife who
mhm.
had turned state's evidence on her husband and her best friend's husband. And, it's like I have a chance to kill someone in this movie accidentally by waxing the floor really, really well to where he fell and slipped on his ass and fell right down those steps and broke his neck. So if there's a chance for me to do more killing in horror films, I would absolutely love it. So
Oh, of course.
bring
That's
on
gotta
bring back the Iron Maiden. We wanted it in Halloween Ends, and a lot of people did, and the powers to be, David Gordon Green, and didn't see the need for me, but maybe
you
one
know,
day.
that is so unfortunate because
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's interesting. We never saw the Iron Maiden die in Kills, and I do believe if I got my facts straight, I did some research.
Right.
They had shot you out, and you were done.
Correct. Correct.
You were gone.
I was
You'd left the
gone.
set, and they said,
I had left the state.
come back.
Hmm.
We've got to film your death scene.
Right.
And what happened there?
And I said, I can, if you want to pay for my flights to get me back from Key West, and I can be back in the morning, because at that point I think I had a layover in Miami and could have easily come back to Wilmington. And they said, no, we've got your clothes. We've got a girl that we can probably bring in, and we'll find someone. And what's interesting, there were some people that said that I was killed. So I said, okay, there's semantics there. Since I physically wasn't there, how could you have killed me? And then there was a girl who was my body double. They put the same jeans on her, same jacket, and she had similar hair. And it was funny because she had this kind of snide remark. This woman was so much older than me, but we wore the same size jeans, So it's like, okay, age doesn't play a part in horror films.
Hmm.
That's, to me, I think that you have any opportunity at any age. So bring me back. And just think of it too. How many times did you think Michael was dead?
Oh, sure,
And he
sure.
wasn't.
Well,
So,
I went back and rewatched Halloween Kills not long ago, and I looked
mhm.
like, was there anybody that even remotely looked like you? Because during that mob scene, it's going pretty fast.
Oh yeah,
He's
yeah.
just slashing his way through everybody. I didn't see anybody that even looked remotely like you
Well, thank you.
get
I hope
got.
not.
I was like, she ran away. She threw the iron and she ran away. She booked it.
Right, right.
So
I agree with you, Justin. I really agree with you. So I'm gonna make you the authority on this. But and it's funny because there is a great story about the jeans. And I'm like this big proponent of, I love to go to thrift shops, and you could
mm,
spend $200 on a pair of jeans, or you could spend $5. And I
mhm.
got this great pair of jeans that I loved. I wore them, and the costume manager or director, she said, they're perfect. They just added a jacket to what I was wearing with the tank top and sweater. I had cowboy boots on, a great belt on, and they liked the look. And then they come to me probably 2 or 3 days, because it takes days and days to film even a small scene like that. And they said, we need to buy your jeans from you. And I said, what? They said, this is Judy Greer's stunt doubles, exact size. And we need those pants, and they're not going to come back to you because they're going to be probably ripped up and bloody and everything.
Mm-hmm.
We can't find another pair that are identical. And so I sold them my jeans, and the others were similar enough to where it had continuity with my scene. And it's funny, I've bought 3 pairs, online through some of the secondary sales companies, and I've found the jeans again. And so I have them back in my wardrobe in 3 different sizes. So, but
Well,
it was hilarious to kind of have that happen. But
oh yeah.
yes.
Wait, what was the? I mean, you'd think that if they knew they were going to kill the character, why did they
Right.
excuse you? Why did they shoot you out? What was the set like? Was it chaotic? Was it what was the energy like on the set?
Well, I was part of Tommy's Mob, and Tommy's Mob had originated at the club, which was actually the Rusty Nail in Wilmington. That was the real club, which I've sung there hundreds of, well, maybe dozens and dozens of times, because I'm a blues and jazz singer, and a little bit of rock in there too. And I did not get picked for that scene. And there was only a small amount of people that were, many of my friends are in that scene. So between the casting and the background casting, for some reason, there was this little bit of disconnect. Is she really part of Tommy's Mob? But I sat with those guys. I ate with those guys. I'm become great and better friends with some of them. Some were new people I didn't know. And it was just that little bit of, okay, she's not really that important. Who cares? Kind of a thing. And that's sad, because everybody that goes to be background, they in their hearts want to be important. They want to be seen on the screen. They want to have their, maybe not fame, but their chance to see themselves up there. And that's for all of us that are, your average, person. You do want your 5 seconds or 15 seconds of fame. And I think it was just that, is she really part of Tommy's Mob? But they saw it that way. The mob did, the director did, but I think it's at times chaotic in communication. And I would ask, and even when I would go sign out my voucher, it would be questionable. Are you coming back? Am I coming back? So now they do things actually electronic, and I think that has made it easier, better, more efficient in the process. And I tell you what, if you live on the East Coast and you want to be in films, move or live part-time in Wilmington. Look at what's going on in the Wilmington scene. Savannah is another area. Charleston's right now has a couple productions. I've moved even further south, and there's not that much work because Florida doesn't have the film incentives that thankfully North Carolina brought back. But it's a great way to get your foot in the door. And every person that I've talked to that ask me for advice, I talk about training and I talk about professionalism. It's kind of pause there for a second. For me, continuity is like this big thing. I love to watch a film or a TV series and say, okay, their glass was a quarter full and now it's full again, and those types of things. So even as background, look where you stood. Have a point of reference. Look how your clothes were, because they do what's called last looks. And they've got wardrobe out there, they've got makeup out there, hair out there, looking at you to make sure your belt's on the same way it was, your jewelry's the same way, hair, everything. But the more you do as background or a day player or a featured background like I was considered, you help the actual filming of the film crew, to not have to pick apart the scene, not have to go back and fix things. And then you work against daylight. It was becoming daylight when we were filming that fight scene. And so the sun's starting to come up on the other side of the sky. and we were very much working against that.
Mm.
But go ahead with some questions, and then I'll pull out some fun parts of that
Well,
night.
well, did you shoot any other scenes other than just the mob scene? Were there any
Yes.
individual sequences with you?
There wasn't really individual. There were multiple times when I was pulled into a scene at the hospital,
Oh.
which was actually part of the Cape Fear Community College building system. And so I'm in running around the crowd where there's the ambulance out there and they're bringing people in. And I could not find myself in that scene, though that was 2 nights we filmed that and within the hospital, and it was made for TV hospital. And I'm inside in the crowd and they dispersed us as Tommy's Bob, so we weren't all together. So there's points when you can see me or a different redhead running through the halls, which was extremely chaotic. The stair scenes were crazy because you're always thinking I'm going to get trampled on. And the scene where the lunatic jumps out of the window and is splattered onto the sidewalk, there were times when I'm right there by him, which was, they did a hell of a job with makeup and special effects on that. It looked too real. But I never picked myself out in that point. Just a couple times when there was the chanting going on inside the hospital.
Actually,
so I had my few seconds. That's it.
it's funny you mentioned the chanting, because we actually do have
Yes.
somebody just asked a question about the chanting. How many times did you have to chant before it was over? Ask Riz
Oh
Ami.
my God. It was hours and hours
Oh,
and hours
oh.
and hours. And it's funny because you don't think about it, but you get tired. People get sweaty. It gets hot. You get thirsty. You have to go for a bathroom break, and you have to then have the cameras need to be repositioned, and sound needs to be checked, and then you have the main characters coming in and coming out. And at one point I'm right by Judy Greer, and then another point I'm right by Anthony Michael Hall, and they have the ultimate job of stepping in and knowing their lines and knowing their movement and responding to the scene and being that character without all the other things in the periphery affecting their performance. And it's actually, I got in trouble on the set and got scolded.
Oh.
But it was Anthony Michael Hall is just, he's a very nice person on set. You don't have the main actors talk to you that much, but he was, when he wasn't engrossed and okay, I've got to get up here and hit somebody with the bat, he was very nice and congenial. Well, he was struggling, and I don't mean this out of disrespect at all. And I know what it's like to be an actress and you've got a line coming up and you're struggling to get all of that, everything in your body and your soul and your mind and those words out. And he was struggling. So we paused and I was near him and I said to him, I said, please understand, I respect your privacy, but I struggle with anxiety at times. I struggle with not being able to find my line. May I offer help? And there are trigger point techniques, that massage therapists use. And there's one that at a certain point in your wrist, you press on that and it releases endorphins into the brain and increases serotonin and calms you. And I said, would you mind if I show this to you? And he goes, please. And so we stood quiet moment just off to the side there in the hospital lounge area. And I did that. So then it's like we're all called out to take a break outside. And the gal that's the wrangler, the production assistant for background, she said, no touching the actors. And I'm like, turned blood face red. And one of my friends, who's very ballsy, she went up to her and said, you know what? He asked her to help and she helped him. So get over it. So,
Well, that's very
but
cool. You helped
yeah,
Anthony Michael Hall,
I did,
that's awesome.
that's
That
what
is
we need
awesome.
to do as human beings. And, You develop a lot of camaraderie on sets. You also have a lot of time where you're just sitting. And
Mhm.
thankfully, it was beautiful at that point in Wilmington. And, we're actually sitting out amongst these tractor trailers that have equipment in them. And it can be hours and hours and hours. But you bring a book, you have your iPhone. But of course, you're not taking pictures. You're not
Right.
saying anything about the scene because you really want to hold that secret because you want the surprise of the audience when they can, to either watch the film at home or to see it in the theater. And I did go to the theater and see it and had a lot of fun with the people that were watching it, people that were coming in. The young man who was selling concessions recognized me, and I took my picture with him and sent it to him. And those little things that, even though I'm nothing in the grand scheme of the movie, to just be told, hey, you matter, I remember you, it's great to meet you. And it's funny, I walked into a theatrical shop tonight to pick up some makeup to become a ghoul, and a goblin, whatever I'm going to be, zombie, I guess is going to be. And the girl remembered me from last year, and she goes, oh my God, I have your picture on Instagram of us. And I dressed my boyfriend up last Halloween as the Iron Maiden, and the wig and the makeup, and he's 6'4", so he was this big giant, Iron Maiden. And he was just an absolute great about doing that and kind of embarrassing himself to be the bigger version of me. But this lady remembered it, and she said, God, I went and watched the movie just to find you.
Wow.
And God, it really, really means a lot to me.
That is
And
awesome.
so all of you out there that love the Iron Maiden, thank you. Thank
Well,
you. I love you
well,
too.
when did you first start to notice this fandom
Oh
around the
God.
Iron Maiden?
I'm trying to It was a Sunday night and the movie had just come out, and all of a sudden Facebook was blowing up. And it made no sense to me at all. And I'm going, wait a minute, what are you talking about? And a friend of mine said, Belisa, you need to get on Facebook. And they told me about the one page, and I go on there and I said, hey, it's me. People didn't believe me. And I said, wait a minute, I have pictures that I did save and didn't post, but at least until the movie was out and this fandom, became evident, I said, here's pictures behind the scene. Here's me with Tommy's mob. You can see that it's me. I'm not gonna lead you astray. And so then it started. And then they said, well, you're on Instagram too, and you're on TikTok. And I apologize that I've not been on TikTok that much, and I'm gonna actually remedy that. But it just I laughed until I cried. I really
Mm,
did. And you just think, you always want to be not important but be recognized for your craft or your talent. Because if you put your heart and soul into it, it means so much for people to recognize you. I was in the one film I mentioned, Killer Bees, and there's a film festival called Cucaloris in Wilmington every fall, coming up in November. And I walk into a bar after my film had shown that first night, and Timothy Allen Mills has become a great friend of mine. He goes, oh my God, it's Mona, because it was Mona. Bambi Romano was my character. And he recognized me, and we took a picture together. And later on, I had him work with me with some audition pieces that I filmed, and found out that he was a stage actor and an elementary school teacher, and just is that one of those great spirits that leads kids on in creativity. And it makes you feel good about what you do.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it and oh and then, oh my God, the memes. The
Mm,
memes, and there's the one of me where I'm like Rocky, and I've got this little or bodybuilder, and they got my head on this body. And I finally reached out to the person that developed that meme, and I said, can you please put a bikini top on me? Because I feel weird not having, my even though they were men's pecs, it just seemed odd.
Right.
But I know that I sent you a few of those, and
Mm-hmm.
they put my head on the big Pillsbury demand. It's kind of fading there for a second again.
No, you're back.
You know,
Back.
and when they made me a hero, you know, like I'm Thor and I've got that red cape and I've got my iron and, you know, I'm going to kick some ass and kill, you know, Mike Myers or any other nemesis. It just, I was like a little girl, you know, that I got that big dream, you know, to come true. And then, you know, little by little, it started fading out. And then I'd see a few more memes come out, and, you know, they put me on the blade of the knife that Michael was holding. And oh my God, countless
Oh,
others where, you know, go ahead.
There's been some Halloween ends memes with like
Oh, okay.
you standing over the mask holding up an iron as if you were the one
Oh,
who ended Michael.
really? I
Which is
haven't seen those yet. Oh my
I'll have
God.
to send you
Yeah,
that
you'll
one.
have to do that.
That's a newer one. My favorite one is just it's just a picture of the mask
Hmm.
with an iron burn on one side of it.
Right.
That's one of my
Yes.
favorites. That's all you need.
Yes.
That's all you need to say. Just that with the iron burn, you know
Oh my
exactly who
God.
that is.
And then it was another one that was the instead of Mona Lisa, it's the Mona Belisa.
Yeah.
And that one was like, it was just crazy. And it just the creativity and, you know, all the love that was put in it. It just, I can't tell you how just wonderfully loved.
Mm.
You know, it's going to make me tear up, but it's like, you know, you always want to do the best at different points in your life. And especially because you're a trained actress and you think about it and you're like, oh God, can I have this chance, you know, to do something and to make something of myself. And when your background, sometimes when you do it over and over and over again, you just think, okay, this is just another job. It's like delivering mail today.
Right.
And you hope that there's going to be something great out of it. But you never, you know, you absolutely never know whether it's going to go anywhere or not. But
Yeah.
you know, it's an opportunity that I think everybody should have that's interested in film is to do that, you know, or is to volunteer and work with as a gaffer or a grip or, you know, work with sound, learn those different aspects of it. And I'm seeing friends of mine that were also doing background that were also in this film, like a friend of mine, Ronald Blake, that was one of the physical or nurses, and he had been a physical therapist in his lifetime and gave all of that up as a pulmonary technician and has become a background. Now he's getting small roles. He just did a project where he was a cameraman with Eric Estrada in this Christian-based reality show about fixing up houses for people. And you see people at different stages that they're trying to live the dream in a bigger way. And I'll tell anybody, you know, volunteer, train, you know, do all these things that will make you better at your craft and have fun, you know, absolutely have fun with it.
I want to give a big shout out here. There is a gang of guys in a hotel
Okay.
room in Kentucky who are watching us tonight. And
Okay.
yes, they're all in Kentucky
All
for
in Kentucky.
all for a convention. They're all hanging out in the same hotel room
Oh
watching this
my
stream
goodness.
because they're
Aw.
fans of the Iron Maiden.
Aw.
So shout out to Christian, Jay the Stingray, Chris, Jess. Let's see. I know I'm leaving somebody out. Um, gosh, I'm leaving somebody out.
Well, I'll say to my Kentucky brethren down there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Jada, what was
Jonathan. I'm leaving
Jonathan,
Jonathan out.
Jonathan and
Jonathan,
Chris. Were there two
Christian,
Chris's? Christian.
Christian
Okay.
and Chris. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Christian and Chris
And Jess.
and Jess. Thank you,
And
gentlemen.
yes,
Thank
thank you
you.
all. Thank you all
Yeah.
very much.
And, you know, let's see. What is it? whereas I've often thought of these as kind of paddles. You rub them together and you stick them on somebody, and it was actually funny when I have the iron and I was trying to think of what to do with it, and how would I just get ferocious with it, and I'm waiting for my chance to hit Michael with it. And they have the stunt director, and then they had stunt doubles, and there were 3 to 4 different people besides the main character that wore those blue overalls. And there's different times when everything stops and they're doing close-ups of a scene, they're repositioning the cameras, and this one guy was having to lay there during the whole time, and people were hitting on him, and then they would do the, I guess, a slow-mo of that would end up being the final cut of the film. But it's funny, all those different things that happen that you don't see behind the scenes, that then they just take a brief second or even half of a second of that, and hours and hours and hours and hours go by. But I tell you what, that was probably the best experience I've had on a film. It really has been.
We have a film director watching tonight, Jamie Blanks, who directed Urban Legend and Valentine. He says, "What a lovely lady you are, Belisa."
Oh, thank you, Jamie. And I'm available. I talked to a friend of mine, Connie Lamoth, that she is trying to help me to really get on the screen again. And like I said, I had an audition yesterday and a call back today for a character that actually everybody thinks she's dead, and I come back not to haunt them, but come back to let them know that I'm alive. And it's a very interesting story by an independent playwright, and it's 6 women in a film, or 6 women on the stage, and a woman directing. And not that I'm pro woman, but it's just nice to see that there's that opportunity. But I know there was some interest in Comic-Cons, and unfortunately that has yet to happen. But if there's anyone out there that would like to see the Iron Maiden at a Comic-Con, I'll bring headshots, and in my costume, I'll bring my irons. I'll bring anything that you need. There have been there's a t-shirt that's been designed, and I wasn't able to actually order one 2 days ago, and I need to contact the young lady who developed the caricature of me. And it's a great shirt, and my boyfriend is a full-time musician, and all these musician friends of theirs said, "God, we want this for Halloween so we can wear you on the shirt and wear you during the the different performances." But I was hoping that I was going to be in Halloween Ends, because I said, we could put the back of me on the back of the shirt, and me kind of turning around with Halloween Ends, she's back. So there's
exactly, yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to play it, but
we've got a question here from a patron of mine, Connor O'Donnell. He wants to know if you got to talk to James Jude Courtney at all.
No, unfortunately. And that again is you really don't have that opportunity. You may not be on the set at the point in which they're even there. And they took an entire 2 blocks of neighborhood in Wilmington to do the neighborhood scenes. And then they had the house that was used at the end with the fire that was a replica. And that was actually on set at Screen Gems there in Wilmington. But otherwise, they took this neighborhood, they displaced everybody. They made it, they made it look as much as like they could of the original neighborhood with some age to it. And so you might be filmed right here, and over on the next block, they're going to film another scene. You might be in holding at the time, or it may have been, one of those days when I was not on set. And, so a lot does go on behind the scenes. Or if it is a small, intimate scene, at times they will replicate even part of that house and bring it into the studio to control the sound and the lighting and background noises. So there's just so many elements that take place when you're filming.
Yeah.
And so the one gentleman that is a director, there was a small film that I did that was a horror film, and it was mystery and intrigue, and it's called Deserted, and it's by a young writer director, Denver Hollingsworth. And I'll put a link up on the page, that one lady who brought an iron to fight Michael Myers. But it was set in the Civil War, and I am Mama. And you don't know if Mama is dead or alive. Is she a ghost? Is she just a dream? And it was very eerie. And you get the chills when you see it. The two young men who were the actors in that film were just tremendous in their roles. And it's just nice to see independent filmmakers get the accolades. And I foresee this young man, becoming even better at his craft and having movies that, you'll be interviewing him, in a year or two. But shout out to Denver for casting me and for producing a great film.
Yeah, right on. Shout out to Denver.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got a question here from T. Parker Evans. Have you ever thought of a backstory for the Iron Maiden? Like, what's her name? Well, you said what her name is, her career, her hobbies. Did you build like a backstory for her?
You know what? I am a woman who was married to a sometimes violent alcoholic. He was a lovely man, charismatic. Boy, you better watch out. Oops, hold on, it blanked out again. So I thought about my own story, and I thought about my struggles, and then becoming a single mom, and out there in the world. I also worked. I've worked for 3 branches of the military. I had a career in transportation and logistics, then selling to the military. I was in a man's world, and I was a very shy person growing up. And you think of all the times you couldn't speak up, all the times you didn't fight for what you wanted, all of the times that you were beat up and bloody. And how do you take that? And what I did to even get that anger, and that angst in that film, was to think about all the times I'd been hurt by a circumstance or by a person or situation. And I said, it's my time to fight. And I think it's very easy for me to pull from my own experiences and to take that into really be triumphant over what you go through. I've had illnesses hit me. I have a weird kind of inflammation / arthritis thing that took 17 years to diagnose. And there's times when I can't pick myself up. Yet there's other times when I'm out there with the machete and the palm trees, and I'm digging dishes or building stone walls, and I'm just taking, and using that pain to a positive side, and taking, I still remember they wouldn't take this damn bookshelf. The trashman wouldn't take it, sitting out there 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And I'm going, I get a letter that they're going to fine me for having this on the side of the road. I go in and I take a sledgehammer and I beat the hell out of it into tiny little pieces, wrap it up and throw it in the trash can. And those are the things you do. You have to, what do they say? Bootstraps. Pull up your bootstraps and sink your teeth into something and take that adversity and create. So here she is. She's been ignored. She's been ostracized. She's been beaten. And she's now deciding, I am woman. Hear me, feel me iron, kind of a thing. And I think that that's something that everybody, I hope, has an opportunity, in their lifetime to right the wrongs and to find that inner strength and come out swinging in irony.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
and sizzling.
If anybody has any questions for Belisa, go ahead and post those now.
Great, thank
Of
you.
course, Halloween Ends came out last weekend. Have you had a chance
Yes.
to go see it?
I haven't yet. We were
Okay.
actually doing some traveling, and there were a few people that had really had some hardships from Hurricane Ian here in Florida, and
Mm-hmm.
we traveled to do help with a fundraiser, for one particular musical artist. And I hadn't been out of town for, God, well over a year. So it was great to do that. And a couple of my friends said, let's get together this week and see it. I've heard some not so great reviews about it, but I will hold that, for watching it. It's entertainment, but it's also more to so many people out there.
Right. Right.
And that's what I realized was how much love, which is an odd word to use with horror and love, but how much love there is for this community of film and of people that do live performances, that they do the haunted houses, which I went through one of them in my life and it seemed to scar me. So I didn't do it again. But I've had ghost encounters in my own life that I've witnessed. And so there are times when I've been thoroughly scared myself by something paranormal that's happened. And but it's just I never realized what great fans and what a great audience the horror genre has. And I still remember I dressed up as Elvira twice in my life for Halloween, and that was a lot of fun. I'm not normally that pale, but you have to use the makeup and darken the hair and do all of those great things. But she's such a female icon within the
Mm-hmm.
horror film and commercial world. And I mean, if the Iron Maiden would have that opportunity, I would love any of it. And it's funny, the night before all of Facebook blew up and TikTok blew up, I dreamt about driving in a pickup truck similar to the one that's in Halloween Kills. And I'm in it, and all of a sudden I'm in this on this country road, and there's this photo facade of me. I'm trying to figure out where my hand is. I'm backwards. So it's flip-flopping in the wind, and it's on the side of the road, and it's got Belisa Lea, the Iron Maiden of Haddonfield, and it's me, and I'm going, oh dear God, if something like this happens, that's far-fetched. But who knew that I would have fans and that they
Right.
would absolutely, love this character? That, yes, costuming, finished putting my outfit together, yes, it everything else was me except that iron. And that just launched launched it all. And
Mm-hmm.
one gentleman spoke to me about creating that backstory and doing a short film that would feature the Iron Maiden. And we kind of lost track of each other, and I was having health issues, and now I'm fine. I can pick myself up and carry myself and walk and talk, and went out dancing last night to a great friend's band, and enjoyed it, and was just excited about the opportunity today, and went and got my pumpkins, and it's here. I'll have to. I have one of my buddies
Ah,
who wanted to get in on the action. That's Kit. He's a ferocious little thing. He's like the rat and lizard killer of my household.
mm,
But it's just great opportunity within film. Do the background work,
yeah.
and even just get signed up for it and go to Wilmington for a week. It's a great town. But have you had any other questions come up?
Yeah, let me see here. Joe
Yeah.
Reese would like to know if Jason Bloom ever showed up on the set.
If he did, I did not see him.
Mm,
And it's kind of like that, like I said, hit or miss. And there was a petition that was supposed to be sent to him and Blumhouse, or Bloomhouse, however it's pronounced. And there were at least 600 people that had signed that petition to have me considered for Halloween Ends. And unfortunately it didn't work. There's one young man who I saw that he was able to transition his character to Halloween Ends, and I wish that I had been so lucky. And that was filmed in Savannah. Yes.
This isn't a spoiler or anything, but there's like a
Right.
montage of the
Ah.
town,
Okay.
and like the because Michael's evil has infected the town, and everybody's just
Oh,
kind of like
okay.
depressed, and it's like there
Oh.
could have been a shot of you ironing with like a
Oh,
single
yes.
tear rolling down your cheek.
Yes.
That would
Oh,
have been so perfect.
that would have
So
been
perfect.
great.
So
Yeah, because
perfect.
I can cry on command, and I would have loved that opportunity. It was funny because when you do independent films, when you do stage, and you have that chance to really speak lines and to show those emotions. And I was reading a monologue today from this character, and I got choked up. And the director, she absolutely loved it because it's her words that she's written, it's her direction that she's given me. But I've taken that and I've brought that life to the character.
Yeah.
And if someone else had been given that iron, would they have brought the character to life like I did? I don't know if they would
I don't
have.
know. I don't
They
know.
would have been. They might have been better, but it's. I've got the love from a lot of people out there, and the interest from others, and it's been a blessing,
Yeah.
and a tremendous opportunity. Um, and there's so many fun stories with people behind the scenes, and the crazy things that happen with wardrobe and makeup, and this filming, and you've got essentially 100 people that are running around doing crazy things, and that whole chanting was a definite big part of
Oh yeah.
of filming, for what seemed to be like 24 hours. But I worked a total of 9 days on that film, and you just you never know. There was one gal that had been called on, or that had been picked for background, and we'd not seen her any of the other days, and she got a line, and that sends your pay up, 900 fold with what you're going to
Right.
be making, or ninefold. And you think about, oh God, if they'd given me that opportunity. But if you've already been on set as background for 2, 3, 5, 10 days, they'd have to go back and pay you that higher rate for
Mhm.
all of those days. So that limits the opportunities at
Mhm.
times for background. And you don't make a lot of money in other states like DC, Maryland, and Virginia. The rate is about another 2 to 3 times greater. It can be greater in Charleston. It can be greater in Savannah. But it's still, you don't do it for the money.
Right. Right.
You do it for that opportunity.
Well, I'm going to take one more question from the
Okay.
audience. Here is a good one from my buddy Captain Halloween. He asks, "Did you get to keep anything from the set?"
Only my experiences, and only the pair of jeans that they sold me. On another film, Uncle Frank, and that was a great, poignant, small film. And you'll see me in the scene at the viewing, as well as at the graveside. And then I was dressed in period clothing. And it's kind of like, you wish, oh God, I wish I could keep one of these, beautiful 50s style or 60s style dresses. But to me, it just makes me think of this brooch that was my mother's, that I wore, and that's the only thing you see at the reception, the wake afterwards. And I'm carrying a tray of food, but my mother's brooch is sitting there. But you bring a lot of dirt, dust, memories, friendships. Sometimes you're not quite friends with a few of the people on the set,
Mm,
and that was. I'll bring this up. IMDb is a great tool. It's a great way to recognize who is within a film. But if you are a background or a day player, you're not give or feature background, you're not given the opportunity by the production company to be listed in the IMDb credits. But if you do become a true character, or you are hired as a day player with lines, you're on IMDb. So people, that was a big question. Why aren't you on IMDb? I could put myself on there, and many others have, but I just felt like, okay, it takes a lot of, what's that term? Chutzpah to do that. Hey, I'm really part of the film, though you don't recognize me. And I really didn't need to, because people figured out who I was. And, I've been interviewed several times, and it's something that I really appreciate. So thank you, Justin, for bringing me on this evening. And yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to hang out with us and tell us those
Absolutely
incredible stories. And is there anything that you want to plug, or anything you want to announce or talk about before we call tonight?
I wish, and I hope that there will be. I would still love the opportunity to get in on Comic-Con opportunities and invite me. Let's see what happens. Let's find ways to bring the Iron Maiden back to life and back to the screen. And I have every piece except the jacket. I can find Chico's, jacket and bring her back. I want to do more. I'm available, and send me a message through Facebook. And that one lady who brought an iron to fight Michael Myers, and keep the love alive. And thank you all. I mean, from from the bottom of my heart, thank you all for just wanting to see I'm more than middle-aged, woman. And that was kind of like, I've had a few more than fans, so to speak. And one guy's wife got very upset with me, and she said, how dare you? You might think you look good for 40 years old. And I said, honey, I just turned 60 in July. So if your husband wants to think I'm hot, and he's 30 years old, maybe there's still something for us cougars or snow leopards or whatever we are out in this world. But age shouldn't matter. It's
just a number. Just a number.
Just a number. And keep going to the movies, keep supporting film. And, I love being the Iron Maiden, and I will keep it going as long as I can. So thank you, everybody. And again, thank you very much, Justin.
Right on. Yes. Again, thank you very much. And the group that she mentioned, that's on Facebook. The woman who brought an iron to
lady.
Fight
they call me a lady on that one.
The
lady who brought an iron to fight. Let me make sure, because I wrote it down. I'm supposed to be an actress. Yes. That one lady who brought an iron to fight Michael Myers. So yes. And then I will make sure that the t-shirt link gets fixed, and I'll send that to you, Justin. So anybody that wants to, wear me, and it's kind of that 50-esque, strong-armed woman with her hair up and, this scarf around it. I think that's a great iconic look for a woman. And the Iron Maiden will be glad to, back you up. Oh, and if you want to be Iron Maiden for Halloween, do it and send me pictures. We had a contest last year, and I voted for the one who would win, and I will send you a t-shirt.
Oh, cool. Very
I will
cool.
send the winner a t-shirt. So dress up your animals if you want as the Iron Maiden, but I'm ready to see those pictures.
I will post links to that Facebook group in the comment section. And when Belisa sends me the link to the shirts, I'll post that one as well. So
great.
There you go. So again, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, ma'am. You have a great rest of your night. All the best.
And thank you guys from Kentucky and everybody else too, but Kentucky boys. Yeah.
There we go. Let me do some shout outs here. Oh, we actually got a Lopke. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Great interview, Piz and Belisa. The Iron Maiden lives tonight. Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna iron out all my wrinkles while you guys are watching now.
Let's see who's still with us. We've got Brian Trash, we've got you and Thomas, we got the Daily Ghost, Jamie Blanks, Jill, Joseph, we've got Captain Halloween, Josh Baker Videos, Alec the King, DJ Donnelly, Wise Guy 100, Retro Cac, Planet CHH, Jay the Stingray, Justin Murad, Cinema Wise Man, Horror Nerd 13, Joe Reese, Swaggy G, Future Dead Camper, Big K.
Wow.
Had a lot of people watching tonight.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
they all seem to really like what they saw. So
Aw.
again, thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, hon.
Have a great rest of your night. And yeah, we'll stay in touch. We'll stay in touch.
Okay, great. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Yep, right on. Thanks for tuning in, people. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.